The Terrans were never meant to stand a chance against the Zaxfur. How could a lowly system with only 3 heavily populated planets survive against a race that held hundreds of worlds? Well, the Terrans figured out how to. It all started 15 standard galactic solar rotations ago, when the Zaxfur were struggling with water scarcity, and there is only so much water that an empire can buy before the coffers start to dry. So, the Zaxfur went looking for water and found Sol, with its 3 planets with more than 60% of their surface covered in oceans. Unfortunately, there were intelligent life forms on the planets. The Zaxfur were in trouble, as you cannot take a world with intellectual life, so they forged document claims that the life forms were in the early Stone Age. First, they feigned peace to try and lower the Terrans into a false sense of security, so that a surprise attack would be more straightforward. Then when it came time to attack, they struck fast with ground vehicles to not disturb the atmosphere too much and make the water undrinkable. This tactic soon resulted in most of the forces getting bogged down by a mass line of fortifications the Terrans call trenches. What surprised the Zaxfur more was that they could not get past these trenches, no matter how much they bombed them from space. All the while being killed in the thousands every day due to artillery, projectile weapons, and native bacteria. So, they dug in themselves to not lose too many soldiers. Unfortunately for the Zaxfur, this is precisely what the Terrans wanted, as any Zaxfur that would wander into the land between the trenches would be dead within a second. So, the Zaxfur sent an entire army into the Terran front line. None survived, as the Terrans laid their weapons of the war onto the military, so that even they were stopped within seconds, still unable to reach the Terran trenches. After building the trenches, thousands of Zaxfur would die on a good day due to suicidal charges that would never succeed. These numbers were only for Terra, as throughout the entire system, the Zaxfur was suffering immense losses. Of course, the front lines were not the only ones suffering mounting dead, but the land that the Zaxfur already held also saw similar amounts of violence. As the battleground was being fought by Terran civilians, picking up Terran weapons for themselves to use in warfare, they seemed to have named after one of their genetic cousins. With the generals growing ever more impatient with the war effort, sent to Terra became a code word for a death sentence in the Zaxfur military. This war has been going on for 15 standard galactic solar rotations under the Galactic Union's noses until now. The Zaxfur government completely collapsed due to the number of people that had died in the war and the famine that had only been getting worse since the war started. The Zaxfur sued for peace, and the Terrans learned that there was a galactic union that could have ended the war, so they were less than displeased. The peace talks were held in the battle-scarred city of New York, partly because that was where the Terran government used to be before the Zaxfur invasion, and partly because it would show the Union what the Zaxfur did to the planet. The first thing the Union wanted to know was the number of dead. The humans answered with the number 134 million, while the Zaxfur representative bowed his head and said 389,248,846 dead. The Union was shocked that the second deadliest conflict in the galaxy's history had happened without it even knowing. Next, the Zaxfur representative asked how the Terrans held back their entire military. The human answered, "When you came with diplomats, we gave you very concise information. We did not want you to know that we have been at war with ourselves for more than 10,000 years, as we thought it would scare you away. When you announced your war, we moved to inflict enough damage that you'd have to pull out of the war. So, we practiced the lessons we had taught ourselves in the past, onto you. It worked surprisingly well, as you fell into every trap that would bog you down for years. So, here you are now, a collapsed empire taken down by a lowly system. Also, it's spelled gorilla, and no, it's not named after the animal." Author's name and the link to original text is in the description.